3 weeks ago, I learned my wife was cheating, but not because I was suspicious or because I went digging through her phone like some jealous fool. No, it was pure chance. I was standing in the kitchen, pouring my morning coffee, when her phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced down, expecting maybe a message from her sister or one of her coworkers. Instead, I saw a text that burned itself into my mind forever. Can't wait for our little paradise getaway, babe. Just you, me, and the ocean. Ryan. My hands froze midair. I just stood there, the smell of coffee filling the room, watching the steam curl up into the quiet. My wife, Olivia, was in the shower, humming like nothing in the world could bother her. And right there, in that normal morning silence, everything I believed about our marriage cracked like thin ice. 20 years together, 2 decades of birthdays, dinners, long nights, and promises. And apparently, that wasn't enough. I didn't explode. I didn't storm upstairs demanding answers. I just looked at that message and felt something inside me turn to stone. Then, I set the phone back on the counter, right where she'd left it, and I started thinking. Not feeling. Thinking. You see, anger fades. But planning? Planning sharpens the mind. Before we go further, if you're still here, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and drop a comment if you've ever realized the person you trusted most was lying to your face. You're going to want to hear how this story ends. That morning, she came downstairs wearing her soft pink robe, smelling like lavender and pretending the world was still the same. She smiled, kissed my cheek, poured herself some orange juice. "You okay?" she asked when she saw I hadn't said much. I smiled back. "Yeah, just tired." I'd never been calmer in my life. That's what scared me the most. The calm. Over the next few days, I started noticing things I'd been too blind, or too trusting, to see before. Late meetings that didn't add up. Weekend yoga retreats that suddenly seemed too frequent. Phone calls that ended the second I entered the room. She was clever, I'll give her that. Her lies were tidy, well-rehearsed, perfectly timed. But the more I watched, the more her little cracks began to show. She'd smile a little too quickly, avoid eye contact when telling me about her day. She even started dressing differently. Sleek dresses, perfume that wasn't hers, nails done every week, even though she'd always said manicures were a waste of money. I didn't confront her. I wanted her to think I was still the same old Mark, the loyal, dependable husband who'd never question her. Because while she was perfecting her story, I was building mine. My friend Jason, who works as a paralegal downtown, met me for lunch one afternoon. I told him I needed to understand something hypothetical. He grinned. "Hypothetical, huh?" I nodded. Hypothetically, if someone's spouse was having an affair and they wanted to make sure they didn't lose the house. "You're thinking ahead," he said, stirring his drink. "Good. You'll want documentation, bank statements, shared accounts, proof of spending. The works." And that's exactly what I did. Every credit card charge, every hotel receipt, every unaccounted withdrawal. I copied it all. By the end of that week, I had a file that could make a divorce attorney smile. Then, on Friday, she dropped the bomb. "Mark," she said, sliding next to me on the couch, "the girls and I are planning a weekend getaway. Just some sun and relaxation, you know? A little girl's trip. You don't mind, do you?" Her tone was light, her eyes casual, but her fingers were gripping her wine glass just a bit too tight. "Of course not," I said easily. "You deserve it." "Where to?" "Bermuda," she replied quickly, like she'd rehearsed it. "Chelsea's already got the hotel booked." "That's nice," I said, smiling as I reached for the remote. "You'll finally get that tan you've been talking about." She laughed, relieved. "You're the best." And in that moment, I knew exactly what was coming. Because she wasn't going with Chelsea. She was going with Ryan, the man whose name had flashed across her phone like a warning shot 3 weeks earlier. I waited until she was asleep that night, then checked her flight confirmation email, left open on her tablet, probably by accident. 2 tickets. Same dates. Same destination. Same lie. But instead of fury, I felt something else, clarity. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to end this in a way she'd never forget. The following week felt like living on borrowed time. She floated around the house humming, acting like everything was fine. I played my part perfectly, helped her pack, even drove her to the airport. "You sure you don't mind?" she asked as we pulled up to the terminal. "Mind? I insist," I said, grabbing her suitcase from the trunk. "Go have fun with the girls." She smiled, kissed me, and walked away, completely unaware that she was walking straight into the trap she'd set for herself. I watched her disappear through the sliding doors, then got back in the car. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. Not out of joy, but out of sheer disbelief that she thought I'd never find out. By the time her plane landed, my plan was already in motion. And when she texted me later that afternoon, "Don't worry, babe, it's just an innocent girl's trip," I finally sent the message that changed everything. Enjoy the island with Ryan. Then, I turned my phone face down, poured myself another cup of coffee, and waited for the storm I knew was about to hit. The first 15 minutes after I sent that message felt like a lifetime. I sat there staring at my phone, watching the little typing bubble come and go, imagining her face when she read those 6 words. Enjoy the island with Ryan. I could almost see her fingers freeze above the screen, the blood draining from her face, the quiet panic turning into chaos. When the first call came, I let it ring. Then another and another. By the 10th, my phone was buzzing nonstop across the desk, lighting up like a warning beacon. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the folder I'd built over the past few weeks: screenshots, statements, hotel receipts, flight confirmations, all neatly organized. Each file a piece of the puzzle she thought I'd never solve. Around 6 p.m., I finally checked the messages. "Mark, please answer me. It's not what you think. I can explain. Please don't do anything rash." Then the one that made me laugh out loud. "I'm coming home tonight." That's when I poured myself a drink and leaned back in my chair. For weeks, I'd lived with the quiet ache of betrayal. Now, for the first time, I felt control. She wasn't in Bermuda with Ryan sipping cocktails on the beach. She was sitting in an airport somewhere, terrified that her perfect little illusion had shattered. And it had. 3 hours later, while she was in the air, I drove downtown to meet Jason's contact, a divorce lawyer named Linda Keating. She was sharp, calm, and professional, the kind of woman who'd seen every version of this story 100 times. "You've done your homework," she said, flipping through the evidence I handed her. "Not many men think this clearly when they find out." "I had 3 weeks to prepare," I said quietly. "I wasn't going to waste it." "Good," she replied. "You've got everything we need. Financials, communication logs, proof of infidelity. We can file as early as tomorrow morning." I nodded. "Freeze the accounts. Every joint card, every savings transfer. She'll be in shock when she lands, but I want that shock to last." Linda gave me a small, approving smile. "Revenge isn't healthy," she said, "but closure is." On the drive home, my phone lit up again. 37 missed calls now, nearly 100 messages. Some angry, some desperate, some full of tears typed too fast to read clearly. I didn't respond to a single one. When I pulled into the driveway, I sat there for a while, engine off, just listening to the quiet. The house looked different now, cleaner somehow, lighter, like it already knew she was gone. At 11:50 p.m., headlights swept across the window. Right on schedule. I didn't move until I heard the key in the door. Then I stood, calm as ever, and waited in the living room. She stepped inside, dragging her small suitcase behind her, eyes red and puffy from crying. Her hair was a mess, her lipstick smeared, her confidence gone. "We need to talk," she said, voice trembling. "No," I said. "You need to listen." She froze, clutching her bag like it might protect her. "Mark, please, I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked quietly. "The flight confirmation with 2 tickets? The hotel reservation under Ryan's name? The text messages? Which part are you going to explain first?" Her eyes filled again. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." I motioned toward the couch. "Sit." She obeyed, slow and shaking. The air between us felt heavy, electric. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "Do you know what's funny, Olivia? You could have told me. You could have looked me in the eye and said you weren't happy. You could have left like an adult. But instead, you lied to me every single day for months. You kissed me goodbye this morning, knowing exactly where you were going and who you were meeting. I didn't mean for it to happen." "That's what they all say," I replied, sitting down across from her. "You didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Repeatedly. I needed something different." He made me feel alive again. I laughed softly. "Alive? You mean reckless? You mean guilty? You mean caught?" She flinched. "You're being cruel. I'm being honest. Something you forgot how to do." She looked at me for a long time, searching for something: pity, anger, a trace of the man who used to forgive her small lies. But that man was gone. What happens now? She whispered. Now? You pack your things, and you find somewhere else to stay. I already filed this evening. The accounts are frozen. The house stays with me. It's in my name, remember? You made that call when you didn't want the financial responsibility. Her jaw dropped. You can't just throw me out. Actually, I can. Actions have consequences, Olivia. And for once, you don't get to talk your way out of them. Her tears started again, quiet and steady. Does Ryan know? Not yet, but his wife will by morning. That got her attention. Please don't tell her, she begged. She's innocent. She doesn't deserve this. Neither did I said, standing. But that didn't stop you. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. You're going to destroy everything. I'm not destroying anything, I said calmly. You already did. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Then I walked upstairs, leaving her alone on the couch, surrounded by the silence she'd created. When I finally went to bed, I didn't hear her move. And for the first time in 20 years, I slept soundly, knowing the truth had finally done what I couldn't, ended the lie. The next morning, sunlight crept across the living room floor, touching the half-packed suitcases still sitting by the door. I came downstairs to find Olivia standing there, hair tied up, eyes swollen, her phone clutched in both hands. She looked smaller somehow, like the confidence that once filled every room she walked into had evaporated overnight. You really froze the accounts, she said quietly, not looking at me. I told you I would. I replied, pouring myself coffee. You were serious. I've never been more serious. She nodded slowly, the reality of it sinking in. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem, I said. You should have thought about that before you decided a weekend in Bermuda was worth 20 years of trust. She took a shaky breath. Please, Mark, can we talk before you do something you can't take back? We're already past that point. I sat down at the table, taking a sip. I told you last night, this isn't a negotiation. It's a consequence. Her voice cracked. You called Ryan's wife, didn't you? I met her eyes and said nothing. That was answer enough. She stepped closer, desperation flickering across her face. You don't understand what that's going to do to them. No, Olivia. You don't understand what you already did to us. She looked away, blinking fast. It wasn't supposed to go that far. He was just supposed to be a distraction. I interrupted. Something exciting to break the routine? You think that makes it better? She covered her face with both hands, whispering, I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was deliberate. You planned it, hid it, lied about it, and when you got caught, you still thought you could talk your way out of it. I could see her unraveling, every word cutting through the denial she'd built around herself. You told me you loved me last week, I said quietly. Was that a lie too? No, she said through tears. I still love you. I always will. You don't get to say that anymore. The silence that followed felt heavy, final. She sank into the chair across from me, her voice barely a whisper. So that's it. That's it, I said. You pack your things, and I call Linda to finalize everything. She nodded slowly, defeated. Then, without warning, her phone buzzed. She looked down, her face going pale. It's Ryan, she murmured. You should probably answer, I said. He's about to have a rough morning. She hesitated, then picked up. I could hear his voice faintly through the receiver, sharp and frantic. You told him? You told your husband? She snapped. No, he found out. He called Lauren. There was shouting on the other end, muffled but furious. He called my wife? Are you insane? She's threatening to take the kids. She's talking to lawyers. Olivia's voice broke. I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't know he'd. You've ruined everything. Ryan's voice boomed through the speaker before he hung up. She stared at the phone, trembling. You didn't have to do that, she said. You could have just let it go. Let it go. I repeated, laughing without humor. You really think I should have kept pretending? That we could just go back to playing house after you spent months lying to me? People make mistakes, she said weakly. People forgive. You don't get forgiveness for deception that deep, Olivia. You get consequences. She didn't respond, just stared at the cold cup of coffee in front of her like she could find her old life somewhere at the bottom. Around noon, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. Mark, a woman's voice said, shaky but firm, this is Lauren. Lauren Brooks. Ryan's wife, I said. Yes. I wanted to confirm what you told me. You can check the flight receipts, the messages, Whatever you need. It's all true. I already did, she said quietly. I just wanted to say thank you. I had no idea. Neither did I replied. Until 3 weeks ago. He's trying to tell me it was nothing, she said bitterly. That it was over. But I saw the photos. I saw the hotel bookings. It wasn't nothing. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. You didn't deserve that. Neither did you, she said, and hung up. I set the phone down and stared at the wall for a long time. The strange part wasn't the anger or the sadness. It was the calm. The part of me that once would have begged or shouted was gone. Now there was just clarity. When Olivia came back into the room, she'd changed into jeans and a sweater, her face washed clean of makeup. She looked older somehow. I called my sister, she said. She said I can stay there for a few days. Good, I said simply. I'll have Linda contact your attorney once you find one. Mark, she started, but her voice trailed off. What? Do you really hate me? I took a moment before answering. No, I said finally. I don't hate you, but I don't know who you are anymore. And I don't love strangers. She stood there for a second longer, as if hoping I'd take it back, then turned toward the door. For what it's worth, she said softly, I am sorry. Sorry you got caught or sorry you did it? I asked. She didn't answer, just grabbed her bags and walked out. When the door closed, the house fell silent again. I poured myself another cup of coffee, sat down in the chair she used to complain about, and finally exhaled. It was over. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. It wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. 2 days passed before I heard from her again. I'd settled into a strange kind of peace. Quiet mornings, long walks, dinners without pretense. The house that once felt heavy with tension now carried a calm stillness. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, my assistant buzzed me at work. There's a woman here asking for you. Says it's urgent. I already knew who it was. Olivia walked into my office looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes rumpled, and the fire in her eyes, the one that used to win every argument, was gone. Please, just 5 minutes, she said, shutting the door behind her. I leaned back in my chair. You've got 4. She took a deep breath. I made a mistake, Mark. I know I did. But 20 years, doesn't that mean anything to you? It did, I said flatly. Until you decided it didn't. I panicked, she said. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it would end before you ever found out. That's the thing about secrets, I said. They always end. Just never the way you plan. She moved closer to the desk. What if I told you it was over with Ryan? That it didn't mean anything? I laughed under my breath. That's supposed to help? You blew up our marriage for someone who meant nothing to you. It wasn't like that. No, it was exactly like that. You wanted excitement, attention, something new. And when you got caught, you decided to pretend it didn't matter. She pressed her lips together, trembling. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. We can fix this. There's nothing left to fix, I said quietly. The version of you I loved doesn't exist anymore. You replaced her with someone who lies without blinking. She looked like I'd slapped her. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being real. Something you avoided for a long time. My phone buzzed, and I glanced down. A message from Linda. Her lawyer just filed a counterclaim, emotional abandonment. I turned the screen toward her. This your idea? Her face went pale. He said it might help balance things legally. So now I'm the villain, I said. You cheat for months, and somehow I abandoned you emotionally. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. You're still trying to twist the story. You can't help yourself. She sank into the chair across from my desk, her voice barely audible. I don't want to lose everything. You already did, I said. You just haven't accepted it yet. She stared down at her hands. You're really not going to forgive me? Forgive you? For what? Destroying trust? Wasting decades? Turning our marriage into a performance? You don't ask forgiveness when the wound's still open. She stood abruptly. Ryan's wife dropped the complaint, she said, like it was supposed to mean something. He's not losing his job after all. Good for him, I said. He's still unemployed, divorced, and exposed. Congratulations on picking a winner. You don't understand. He was going through things. Don't, I said sharply. Don't defend him. You made your choice. Now live with it. She glared at me, voice trembling with anger now instead of guilt. You think this makes you some kind of hero? You think destroying both our lives makes you strong? No, I said calmly. But pretending everything was fine while you lied to me every day made me weak. I'm done being weak. She opened her mouth, then hesitated. What if I told you Ryan wasn't the first? That stopped me cold. I stared at her, trying to decide if she was bluffing or just cruel enough to use the truth as a weapon. Excuse me. Would it matter? She said softly. If you knew there were others before him, would it change anything? I stood, my pulse steady. You're not confessing, I said. You're trying to hurt me one last time. I'm trying to be honest. You don't know what honesty is, I said. You're addicted to control. Even now, you can't stand that I'm the one walking away. You'll regret this, she said, tears slipping down her face. We were good together. We were, I said, until you decided to see how far you could push before I broke. She wiped her eyes, turned toward the door. This isn't over. It's been over for months, I said. She left without another word. The door closed softly behind her, and I stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty chair she'd occupied. My phone buzzed again. Linda's voice came through steady as ever when I answered. How'd the ambush go? She admitted there were others, I said. Used it like bait. Said maybe I'd forgive her if she told me everything. Classic manipulation, Linda said. Don't take the bait. People like her think confession equals redemption. It doesn't. I know, I said quietly. It just makes me realize how deep the lies went. Then you're making the right choice, she said. After we hung up, I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just clarity. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Clean split. She got a small settlement and the car. I kept the house, my savings, and my peace. When my friend Jason called to ask how I felt, I told him the truth. Like I can breathe again. No regrets, he asked. None, I said. Turns out losing someone who lied to you isn't really a loss. Later that week, I got a message from an unknown number. This is Lauren. I wanted to thank you. The divorce is final next week. My kids and I are moving to Colorado. You saved us years of lies. I stared at the message, then typed back, glad you found peace. We both deserved better. That evening, I poured a glass of whiskey and sat in the same old chair she used to hate, the one she said ruined the living room. The house was quiet, peaceful mine. I raised the glass slightly, to no one in particular. To truth, to consequences, and to starting over. Sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury, it's calm. It's silence. It's freedom. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Because sometimes the best revenge is simply living a life where no one lies to you ever again.